Good morning, everybody. I'm Gyu NA, a radiologist specialized in thyroid imaging and intervention from Korea. First of all, congratulations on the 20th Vietnamese Congress of Radiology and Nuclear Medicine and the third Friendship Symposium. I'm very pleased, and it is my great honor to join this Thyroid Friendship Symposium, and especially thank you so much for the Thyroid Symposium program, which is updated and very interesting and very organized. I think so. And I believe that today's Thyroid Friendship Symposium will improve our knowledge and our experience for care of patients with thyroid nodules. And also I believe that this symposium will build a strong friendship between Vietnamese and Korean radiologists. Thank you very much.
And now I would like to introduce Dr. Gyu NA, who will present the first topic about the US first money. Now this is very small, more than I can read. So he will present the topic of thyroid on US on ultrasound, thyroid imaging, reporting and data system. Dr. Gyu NA.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. And today I'd like to introduce the Korean Society of Thyroid Radiology Thyroid Guidelines, and my talk is Korean Thyroid Imaging Reporting and Data System, Korean thyroid. Recently, many international societies, thyroid societies and radiology societies have proposed ultrasound malignancy risk stratification systems in their guidelines. And the 2016 Korean Society of Thyroid Radiology and Korean Thyroid Association also proposed a Korean thyroid system for risk stratification of thyroid nodules. So, as you know, ThyRAS is the ultrasound-based quantitative scoring system for malignancy risk in thyroid nodules. And this Korean ThyRAS system was developed by a retrospective multicenter study, 2016, and validated a prospective study. And this study was proposed in the KST-HR guideline in 2016 and endorsed by Korean Thyroid Association, which includes multidisciplinary society, surgeons and endocrinologists. So in my talk, first I'd like to discuss the structure of this risk stratification system. K-ThyRAS is the ultrasound pattern-based system, and based on the combination of ultrasound features, based on solidity, that is composition, and nodular echogenicity, and the three suspicious ultrasound features, including microcaspation, taller than wide or non-parallel orientation, and irregular or speculated microlobe-rated nodules, which are very specific for malignant thyroid nodules. And K-ThyRAS was developed to make a simplified and clinically feasible system. Because many ultrasound research studies have suggested common major 5 independent ultrasound predictors for malignancy. Solid composition and hyper heterogeneity is predictive, but it has a high sensitivity but low specificity. That means that benign nodules also show solid composition and hypoheterogeneity in many cases. And also microcalcification, non-parallel orientation, speculated microlobarate margins shows high specificity but low sensitivity. That means that many malignant tumors do not have these specific ultrasound features. And the previous our study showed that the well-known suspicious specific ultrasound features, that means 3 microcalcification, non-parallel orientation, and speculated microlobarate margins, depend on the composition and echogenicity. That is, in solid and hypoechoic nodules, these suspicious ultrasound features show very high malignancy risk. However, in partial cystic or isohyperechoic nodules, these suspicious features shows only modest, around 20 or 15% of malignancy risk. So, based on this research, we created the Korean TIRAS, and this is the algorithm, diagnostic algorithm of K-TIRAS, that is, if the thyroid node is solid and hypoechoic, and if there is any suspicious feature, it is categorized as high suspicion, K-TIRAS 5, with malignancy risk more than 60%. In solid hypoechoic nodules without any suspicious feature, it has intermediate suspicion risk less than 50% and categorized as K-TIRAS 4. And in nodule groups with partial cystic or isohyperechoic nodules, if there is any suspicious feature, it is categorized as intermediate suspicion category. And if there is not any suspicious feature, it is categorized low suspicion, K-TIRAS 3, and the risk of malignancy is less than 15%, around usually less than 5%. And nodules with pure cyst or partially cystic nodule with intracystic collateral artifact or a spongiform nodule, when there is no any suspicious feature, it is categorized as benign, K-TIRAS 2, and almost always benign nodule. So based on this algorithm, let me show you some representative cases. So these nodules are solid and hypoechoic. If there is taller than Y3 microcalcification speculated margin, it is high suspicion. And if there is not any suspicious feature, it is K-TIRAS 4 intermediate suspicion. These nodules are partially cystic or isohyperechoic nodules. If there is suspicious feature of microcalcification, it is K-TIRAS 4. If there is not any suspicious feature, it is low suspicion K-TIRAS 3. And simple cyst, partial cystic nodule with intracystic collateral artifact, and the spongiform nodule. That means that isoechoic nodule with spongiform microcystic changes in more than 50% of solid component. In these nodules are almost always benign. Sometimes we encounter isolated microcalcification that is entirely calcified nodule. It is very rare, about 1%. But the malignancy risk is not fully established, but our research suggested it is at least more than 12% and more than 50%. So we categorize these nodules as intermediate suspicion nodule, K-TIRAS 4. And we should remember that the calculated malignancy risk of K-TIRAS of each TIRAS category, it depends on the malignancy rate of the calculated quote data. If the malignancy rate is high, the calculated risk of each category is also higher than those calculated in the quote data with the lower malignancy rate. Also, it is dependent on the proportion of papillary carcinomas. A second issue is our recommendation regarding FNA criteria for thyroid nodules. Fine needle aspiration or biopsy is determined mainly by the estimated risk of malignancy of thyroid nodules, usually ultrasound risk. And also, another factor is the prognostic factors that include nodule size, or absence or presence of aggressive tumor behavior, such as extrathyroid extension or lymph node or distant metastases. So, if there is presence of poor prognostic factors, that means a suspected metastasis or macroscopic extrathyroid extension, like this case, suspicion of tracheal wall, and these cases were cases of tumor invasion of recurrent laryngeal love, that is posterior protrusion, especially posterior medial part. This is the ultrasound feature of suspicion of recurrent laryngeal love invasion. In these cases, the prognosis is poor, so we recommend a biopsy regardless of nodule size, even though the nodule is small. And also we should remember that lymph node metastasis is also a bad prognostic sign, even though the primary tumor size is small. So we categorize the lymph node based on ultrasound features into three categories: suspicious, indeterminate, and benign. So suspicious metastatic lymph nodes are defined as lymph node with one of 4 suspicious ultrasound features, including hyperechogenicity of lymph node, and nodal calcifications, and cystic change, and also abnormal nodal vascularity, peripheral or diffuse or connected. And also a benign lymph node is defined when there is a central hyperechogenic hyaline or a presence of radial, typical, normal lymph node vascularity, even though there is not visualized echogenic hyaline. In this case, it's a benign lymph node and almost always benign. And if the lymph node do not have a feature of suspicious metastatic lymph node or a benign specific ultrasound feature, it is categorized as indeterminate lymph node, and usually have ultrasound feature of lymph node with loss of normal echogenic hyaline. So suspicious lymph node shows very high malignancy risk. That means that almost always metastatic lymph node, even though there is false positive cases, the malignancy risk is more than 90%. However, the malignancy risk, the probability of metastasis is not clearly defined in the indeterminate lymph node. And also we guess that it depends on the size of lymph node. Anyway, we recommend fine needle aspiration criteria for neck lymph node in suspicious or proven thyroid cancer. In preoperative setting, we recommend biopsy for suspicious lymph nodes if the size of show diameter is more than 3 to 5 millimeters, and for indeterminate lymph node when the show diameter is more than 5 millimeters. And in postoperative surveillance setting, we recommend biopsy for suspicious or indeterminate lymph node when the show diameter is more than 8 to 10 millimeters. And when there is no poor prognostic features, there is no evidence of lymph node metastasis or extrathyroid extension, then in thyroid nodules more than 1 centimeter, we recommend the size cutoff for biopsy 1 centimeter for KTRS 4 and 5, and 1.5 centimeter for KTRS 3. And for benign KTRS 2 nodules, we do not recommend routinely biopsy because this is almost always benign. And in the case of thyroid nodules, less than 1 centimeter, it is very controversial issue regarding the biopsy or not. In the United States, many guidelines do not recommend biopsy for small thyroid nodules less than 1 centimeter if there is not any poor prognostic factors. However, our guidelines recommend FNA may be performed for high suspicion nodules only for KTRS 5 nodules more than 5 millimeter or by shared decision with patients before decision of active surveillance or surgery. And the biopsy may be default for older patients and high surgical morbidity or short lifespan. In my experience, that in Japan, most physicians recommend biopsy if the small thyroid nodule is highly suspicious before decision of active surveillance. So in summary of the biopsy, we recommend a size cutoff of 1 centimeter for KTRS 5 and 4 nodules, and 1.5 centimeter for KTRS 3 nodules, and do not recommend routine biopsy for benign nodules. And recently we compared the diagnostic values among 7 published society guidelines. Korean guideline and NCCN and American Thyroid Association guidelines show higher diagnostic sensitivity, usually more than 90%, but also a higher unnecessary FNA rate. So there is some difference of performance diagnostic values among the guidelines, and in the case of the ACR guideline, it showed lower diagnostic sensitivity less than 80%, but lower ancestry FNA rate. This is the data of my recent hospital. Among the quote data of more than 2,000 nodules, the sensitivity was 95%, and the unnecessary FNA rate was 66%. However, when I modified the size cutoff of low suspicion nodules from 1.5 centimeter to 2 centimeter, the sensitivity was minimally decreased, only 1%. However, unnecessary FNA rate decreased more than 10%. So, for the reduction of unnecessary biopsy rate, we consider the modification of size cutoff. Finally, I'd like to briefly discuss the ultrasound management after biopsy in our guidelines. And as you know, in the recently updated Bethesda system, there was some change of malignancy risk in non-diagnostic and also plus nodules, and there was a consideration of DFTP. Anyway, if the initial FNA result is non-diagnostic, we recommend repeat biopsy. If the nodule is high suspicion, within 6 months, and if it is indeterminate or low suspicion, within 12 months. The malignancy risk of nodules with non-diagnostic FNA result, the risk is proportional to the KTRS risk. So repeat biopsy is justified because repeat FNA shows a diagnostic result in about 75%. And in the case of quantitative biopsy, it is more effective, and the diagnostic result is found more than 95%. And if the FNA result is benign, we recommend a repeat biopsy only for high suspicion nodules within 12 months. And the other nodules, we recommend ultrasound follow-up within 2 years. Previous our study shows that the malignancy risk of nodules with benign FNA result, the cancer risk is higher only in KTRS 5 nodules. It was around 12%. So it requires additional biopsy to exclude the four possible potential false negative result. When the thyroid nodule shows FNA result of us and frogs, In most cases, we recommend repeat biopsy. If the nodule is high suspicion, we recommend repeat biopsy within 6 months, and if in other nodules, within 12 months. The cancer risk of osteoporosis thyroid nodules is also proportional to the ultrasound-based risk like this. And also, it is very controversial about the management of osteoporosis thyroid nodules, but in most guidelines, a repeated biopsy is recommended because it can reduce unnecessary surgery, and the repeated biopsy shows about 50% benign result. And in nodules with follicular neoplasm or suspicious follicular neoplasm nodules, in most cases, a diagnostic lobectomy is recommended in most guidelines. And the ultrasound risk stratification has not clear role. That is, it is not clear ultrasound is helpful. And we may consider ultrasound surveillance instead of immediate surgery if the nodule size is small and very low risk on ultrasound, and if there is not any clinical risk factor. And the biopsy result is suspicious for malignancy or malignant. Usually it is candidate for surgery. However, we may consider active surveillance if the nodule is small in size, low risk papillary carcinoma, and if the patient has high surgical risk. And lastly, I'd like to discuss briefly the high-risk papillary carcinoma, which are not candidate for active surveillance, but candidate for surgery. Usually, many guidelines define the high-risk microcarcinomas when it has lymph node or distant metastasis, and if there is clinical signs or symptoms or suspicion on imaging features regarding invasion of the triangular or trachea like this. This is trachea invasion case, and this is case of tumor invasion of the triangular. And the biopsy result shows high-grade malignancy, such as aggressive variant of papillary carcinoma or non-papillary carcinoma. It is candidate for surgery. And if the tumor progression is found during active surveillance, it is also candidate for surgery. So recent studies also shows K-tyrus patterns has close relationship with the histotype of thyroid malignancy. That usually papillary carcinomas show high suspicion or intermediate suspicion patterns. However, follicular carcinomas mostly show K-tyrus 4 or 3, low or intermediate suspicion pattern. So the ultrasound pattern is different among the histology types. And focusing on the papillary carcinomas, classic conventional papillary carcinomas mostly show high suspicion or intermediate suspicion pattern. However, follicular variant papillary carcinoma shows somewhat different ultrasound patterns. If you consider the subtypes of follicular variant papillary carcinomas, if the follicular variant papillary PTC is infiltrative subtype, the ultrasound pattern is the same as classic conventional papillary carcinoma. Of course, the prognosis is also almost similar to conventional PTC. So most infiltrative follicular variant PTC shows high suspicion or intermediate suspicion patterns. However, encapsulated follicular variant PTC, whether it is an FTP or invasive encapsulated follicular variant PTC, these tumors usually show, in most cases, intermediate suspicion or non-suspicion patterns. And the ultrasound pattern is very closely similar to follicular carcinomas. So in summary of the present of Korean tyrus now is a simple and intuitive risk stratification system. And it has a relatively high sensitivity for malignancy, but also high unnecessary effective rate. And it is predictive of histology type of malignancy and effective for selection of candidates, small micropapillary carcinomas for active surveillance. and may be useful for management decision after biopsy with combined cytology and ultrasound risk stratification. And in the future, however, we should know that there is a spectrum of risk in subcategory ultrasound patterns. So in the future, computer-based risk stratification, automatic risk stratification system may be more effective for more accurate and individualized risk stratification of thyroid nodules. And modification of FNA size cutoff in K-TARAS may be required. So in the next revision, we may consider the modification of size cutoff. And at present, 5 international societies, including Korean Society of Thyroid Radiology, we are working on the standardized TIRAS system. I'm not sure of the final outcome, however, standardized TIRAS will be helpful for patient care in the future. Thank you for your attention.